Good morning, everyone. We're so happy that you're here with us and looking forward to learning together and hearing from three great professionals who are going to share their wisdom and knowledge with us this morning on networking and relationship building. As we put this event together, we talked about how even if your job doesn't involve sales, and mine would be a great example, it's still important to build your relationships both professionally and personally, because it gives us an opportunity, if we're ever looking to expand where we're at today or in the future. And so for today, we're so excited to have three great professionals that are going to share their wisdom and knowledge about relationship building and networking and how it's helped them. And so today we have Peter Adamo, who is the CEO of Crozer Health, Mike Brady, who is a financial consultant and business owner of LPL Financial, and Ann Logan, who is a senior manager of executive and high potential talent development at Vanguard. And they have many years of experience in relationship building and networking, and lots of tips and suggestions that they're going to share with us today. So we're excited to hear from them. As we kick off this morning, we thought it would be a great opportunity to kind of put everybody on the spot a little bit, to give a little bit of information about who they are, their background, and maybe, why you're involved with the chamber or what your interests might be. As the chair of the Young Professionals, I've been able to meet a lot of people through the years who have helped me grow professionally, and just help continue to grow my personal business. I am the executive director of Catholic Community Choir. We're a children's theater organization. And so I do all of our day-to-day functioning and long-term planning to grow our children's theater program. And I do all of our operations and oversee everything that happens at our organization. And so by being a part of the chamber, I've been able to meet people who have signed their children up to be a part of our program, also meet businesses in the area who want to support our children's theater organization. And it's helped me to grow by connecting with not only the YPs, but also many of the other professionals in the chamber who've helped me grow along the way. So we'd like to hear from everybody about, a little bit about your background and maybe why you're here today or what you're hoping to get out of this experience. So I'm going to put some people on the spot. I see some friends. I'm going to put Kristen Gavin on the spot to give us some information about who she is and why she's here today.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kristen Gavin. I'm a certified public accountant and tax manager at Bars, Gowie, Inman & Fultz at the media office. And I work with businesses of all size, whether they're small and just starting out to well-established ones, and really provide consulting, tax planning advice for businesses. And then we also do a lot of personal tax preparation as well. So always love being a part of the chamber, giving advice where I can to business owners, and just getting to meet all of you and get to collaborate. And I'm really looking forward to the presentation today.
Awesome. Next up, I'm going to call out our co-chair, our vice chair, Adam Marone.
Hey, everybody. Adam Marone from LPL Financial. I'm the, like Amy Kate said, I'm the vice chair of the Young Professionals. Amy Kate, you said, say, why am I here, or what's
like what you're hoping to get out of being a part of this today?
Just because with everything being shut down for a while, I think it's a great to get a brush up on the networking skills and see what I need improvement on. Our And also, real quick, sorry, Mike Brady's on his way. Mike and I are in the same boat where we have to drop our kids off at school, and our office phone was ringing so many times from a random number.
I'm on. Yeah, Adam. I'm on, Adam.
All right. I wanted to tell the story.
All good. No, all good. I'm here. I'm behind a little accident on Route 3, but I'll be there in 5 minutes, it says.
Oh. Awesome. Thanks, Adam.
Yep.
Andrew, how about you? Oh, you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry. You'd think I would have mastered this by now, but apparently not. Hi, everybody. My name is Andrew Berry. For those of you who don't know me, I run American Services Corporation. We're a janitorial services company primarily servicing clients of 100,000 square feet or more. Mostly what I'm hoping to get out of today is just some, wisdom and experience from people who are further down the road than me. So that's really what I'm looking forward to.
Awesome. Thanks, Andrew.
Sure.
Rob, how about you?
Sure. I'm Rob Zindel. I'm the development officer at Family Support Line in Delaware County. We're a nonprofit that serves child sex abuse survivors and their families. I am new to the role out here, and I spent a lot of time at my previous nonprofit in the city, so I'm getting to know Delaware County. The chamber has been a great tool for me getting to know people and network out here in Delaware County. And I'm excited to, maybe learn some additional tools so I can continue, building those relationships out here in Delco. So thank you for having me.
Awesome. Cindy?
Hey,
Hi.
I'm the ghost from the past.
We're so happy
I
to see
apologize.
you.
It's so great to see so many faces again. So I saw this invite. I'm like, I got to get back into it. And what a great topic. So every day is another chance to learn. So I thought if I can at least walk away with one thing today, then I'll be better off than I was yesterday. So I'm Cindy, small business relationship manager at TD Bank.
Awesome. Thanks, Cindy. So good to see you.
Yeah.
How about Elaina?
Good morning, everyone. Nice to meet you, Amy. I don't think we've met before. My name's Elaina Sforza. I'm the operations manager at Barscowie, Eamon and Foltz. So I work very closely with Kristen. Hi, Kristen. So I am very excited to be part of the call this morning. Looking forward to gaining more networking knowledge. I think it's a skill that we could all brush up on. So thank you for inviting me. Happy to be here. And if we can answer any tax questions, you know where to find us. Thanks.
Awesome. I'm not sure. Carly, are you there? Carly?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm connected to video and phone just in case.
Oh.
My name's Carly, and I work with Kristen and Elaina at Barscowie.
Nice.
I am very new to the chamber. Kristen had sent me the link over yesterday, and I decided to join. So I'm just looking to brush up on those networking skills and meet new people.
Awesome. Well, welcome. How about Meg?
Is it working?
Yep, we got you.
It wasn't working yesterday. So I'm Megan Armour. I'm from Sterling Pig Brewery. And I'm looking forward just to, I guess I'm in sales, so I know how relationship building and is very beneficial to doing sales. So I'm looking forward to kind of learn a little bit more about that from everyone.
Awesome. Thanks, Meg. Well, thank you everyone for being with us this morning. We're excited to have you here, and we thank you for your time. So we're going to jump right into some of our questions that our panelists are going to answer. So we're going to kick it off with the first question of what has networking done for you professionally or for your business? And I'm going to give this first question to Anne, and then we'll go through Peter and Mike. So again, what has networking done for you professionally or your business?
Yeah, so maybe I'll give some context as for how I'm going to answer. So my name's Ann Logan. As Amy Kate said, I lead our executive development function at Vanguard. And I've been at Vanguard since it was my first job out of college. And so I've been there 24 years. You don't need to do the math, but I am further along my career than many of you. But, it's interesting. So even though being in the same organization for as long as I have been, there are networking and building these relationships is so critical both inside and outside the organization. So maybe I'll just kind of think about it from the outside the organization. And so I've been in a development function for probably in HR about 20 years. And for me, it is about understanding, what other roles people are doing in other organizations. And to me, it's not always about hey, how do I find another opportunity or help someone find another opportunity for a career perspective, but it's giving exposure to some of the challenges that other people are facing in their business and how that might allow me to think differently about my work. So it's interesting because obviously I do a lot of connecting and networking with other HR development professionals around the world, around the country. But it's what I always find interesting is to say, like, how can I learn something and about from somebody who is in a totally different business than me to understand, well, what are those challenges that they're having? It's like, oh, okay, so I'll Megan, I'll pick on you a little bit. Like in sales and in a restaurant industry, like you're thinking about client experience. Okay, well, I have to think about client experience for myself as well, about the employees and how I'm developing. So to me, the networking also comes not just from like what can I learn about people as individuals, but what can I learn about their business challenges that might make me think differently about the way that I'm trying to solve a challenge that I'm experiencing within my work.
Awesome. Thanks, Anne. Peter, how about before you answer the question, if you want to give us some information about yourself first?
Sure, I'd be happy to do that. I'm Peter Adamo. I'm the Chief Executive Officer here at Crozer Health. I've been here not quite 2 years. I got here right before our first case of COVID-19. It presented in the ED on March the 5th. I'd gotten here in late February. So my job has essentially been keep the place from burning down and do everything you can in the face of all the silliness that we're all experiencing. What is probably useful to know about me is I studied industrial engineering. I grew up in New Jersey. And then I later got a business degree a master's degree in business administration. I've lived all over the country. And I don't know what sort of advice I could really give to youngsters, other than the fact that, when you move around, you learn a lot about different cultures, different ways of doing things. And the more dissimilar people are, the more similar they are at the end of the day. I've gone full circle now. I've lived in Texas, Ohio, New Mexico, California on 3 separate occasions, and I have friends everywhere. And many of those friends were through work, but some were not. And I enjoy having a diversity of contacts, because as I explain the challenge I'm facing, another person, probably from a field totally unrelated to what I do, is probably got a perspective I've never considered. That's one of the things I value most by having the folks that I've met over the years, I stay in touch with. Even if I send a text message every now and then, I try to find an excuse to reach out to them. We've got a good friend in California. The Chargers were playing the Eagles. He originally grew up this way. I just made sure that he knew I was still alive. Those are the sorts of things that I would suggest to you that you continue to do, because you never know when you might be in the area or he may be in the area, and you can do something with and for each other. So a little bit about me, and I'm chock full of stories. So as we move forward, I'm happy to share a few.
Awesome. Thanks, Peter. Mike, happy to see you. If you want to give us some background information for everyone here today first.
Sure, and my apologies again for not being on until just now, but I was able to switch over and get in the office. So Mike Brady, been with LPL Financial we started 21 years ago, and joining the Chamber of Commerce was among the first things I did after starting in this business. A mentor gave me that piece of advice. When I look at networking and what it has done for me, both professionally and personally, I think it accomplished a bunch of different things. So first of all, it allowed me to realize how to deal with being uncomfortable, right? Like I grew up in Delco, right? I went to high school in Delaware County. I went to Widener University. I was in a fraternity. I'm very comfortable in situations where I'm around a whole bunch of people that I already know. That's easy. What wasn't easy was being comfortable in situations where I'm in a room where I know nobody. And networking and learning how to network gives you the ability to feel very comfortable in that normally uncomfortable situation. And I think that's one of the great things about, and that only comes from doing it over and over and over again, right? The other thing that it does is it really helps you build your brand. And if you go into networking, not with the false sense of I'm going to leave with a client, but with I'm going to meet and establish a couple of relationships and collect, as Peter said, collect and maintain those relationships over the years, you are in a roundabout way building a really healthy brand for yourself and your business. that plays itself out really well, not immediately, but over time. And then you see the impact to your business. So like I said, joined the chamber 21 years ago. First couple of years, networked like a maniac, went to everything. And I still go to a lot of stuff. But during those first couple of years, it was more about meeting and understanding who the other players were and the people in the chamber. And then after 3 or 4 years, I found, hey, people know that Mike Brady is LPL Financial. They're kind of one of the same. And my phone starts to ring a little bit. And those relationships start becoming professional in addition to personal relationships. That's how it's worked for me. That playbook works. It still works. It'll never not work if you do it right.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah,
I like that.
Mike, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Ann.
I was going to say that, there's two things that kind of jumped out to me, but what Mike said was one about this long-term perspective, right? It's like you're like thinking about networking as building your book of people that you know, right? And to Mike's point, it might not turn into a business opportunity immediately, but how do you continue to stay in touch? Like what Peter says about connecting or texting with people, just like, yeah, I'm still alive, I'm still here, because you never know when that person might need something from you, when you might need something from them. And people always want to know that they're cared about or thought about. So how do you continue to do that within your networking space? It's the little things that actually make a difference, I think. The other thing is about the uncomfortableness, right? Like, and we were talking a little bit about it before we got on, before everyone else joined, but I think, there are definitely people who are like, I love networking. I can talk to anybody, throw me in a room and I'm good. And then I think there's a majority of people who are like, oh my gosh, this is uncomfortable. And it takes time and practice. And I think COVID actually has kind of hurt us in some capacity. Well, COVID has done a lot of things for us in the world, but like in terms of networking, because it's like, oh, if I wasn't comfortable putting myself out there, I kind of was able to retreat, right? And be like, oh, well, it's virtual. I'm not going to go. I'm not seeing anybody. But it's like, how do you get yourself to be a little bit more comfortable? Because I think about this as I even talk to my kids. It's like, not everybody's comfortable reaching out. Like, how can you be that first person to show that you're open to having a conversation? If you're in an environment and you're like, oh gosh, I don't know anybody, I'm gonna just start looking at my phone. Well, that's closing off the relationship. So like, if you can be that first person to give that, like to go up to somebody and give somebody else an opening, I guarantee that there'll be relief. Like, oh, thank God you talked to me, because I was feeling really uncomfortable. So putting yourself out there and stretching yourself a bit, if you are comfortable, it's hard, but the more you do it, the more you're going to be comfortable.
Absolutely. And I think a little bit when Peter was sharing the answers to his question, I was thinking about the ability to be a little bit vulnerable in this networking world. When sometimes it just starts with a question of, where are you from? Where, to make that connection, or, what'd you do this weekend? Just to not necessarily ask a business question, but just try to start a conversation helps a lot.
Right. I don't know how many times after having lived in Southern California and in Texas, people would ask me questions like, you're not from around here, are you, boy? Right? That sort of thing. And you know what? That leads to something. And I don't know. I've never been entirely comfortable in these settings. So don't make it feel to yourself that you're inadequate because you're not completely comfortable in a room full of strangers, shaking hands and getting to know everybody. You're supposed to be a little uncomfortable, right? So don't let that hold you back. Just know that that's par for the course.
Awesome. All right, our next question. If you could go back and talk to your 20-year-old self, what is some career advice you would give? Maybe I'll see if we'll put Mike on the spot first.
When I read this question in the stuff that was sent out ahead of time, I struggled to find something that I wanted to tell myself, but I think there's something that's kind of missing today that I think makes a lot of sense. And whether it's just who I always have been, or how life has kind of guided me along, something that I've always tried to live by is never burn bridges, ever, because you just never know. And this is me, now I'm gonna be a little vulnerable. This is me speaking as somebody who's divorced. right? And remarried with kids, and life is wonderful. But my ex-wife's parents and my ex-brother-in-law was one of my groomsmen in my second wedding. And that entire family are all clients of mine, with the exception of my ex-wife. But that's okay. I didn't burn that bridge. We just, that's frowned upon. But I've always lived life that way. And I think that today, what I see in more of the coming up business culture is a lot of bridge burning that is taking place, where people are like, don't agree, I'm going in this direction, I'm never going to talk to you again. And I think that's a mistake. We talk about surrounding ourselves with people that have different views and being able to be accepting of those views. Well, man, it starts right here, right? This is a great forum to be able to be around people that you may disagree with on a handful of items. And that's okay. It doesn't make you better, them worse. Doesn't make you right, them wrong. You're still able to hug it out at the end of it and advance business and maintain a relationship. And I think that there might have been a couple of instances in my early career where that happened. And so that would be the piece of advice I'd go back and tell myself about, but I don't know that I did it a lot, but I wish I never, ever, ever did it.
Great point. Thanks, Mike. How about you, Peter?
I think a couple of things. First that comes to mind is don't get too rigid about the way you see things. And the more people you know, the more perspectives you're going to listen to. And someone is usually going to come out of left field and maybe give you a perspective that you've never heard before. Because as broad as a circle you might think you have developed, it's still not that broad. And there will always be somebody who will say something that you have never considered. And then you'll say to yourself, oh my goodness, all this time I've been espousing a rather insensitive perspective, and I really should have been open-minded to something very different than what I had been taught all this time. And I would say that may have been one of the things that created the greatest frustration for me, not only at work, but also personally. And I think going back to what Mike says, is it's not just business contacts that are your network. Sometimes your personal relationships and how you manage them could haunt you at business, and vice versa. So do not think that someone that is not in a direct position to provide business to you is not important and won't influence the way you conduct yourself and your opportunities that come forward. I've had some of my greatest opportunities come from people I've met outside of work who introduced me to someone else. And from there, it led to something bigger. So there's always an opportunity. I think there's an old saying about how if you activate your reticular activating system and you know what you're looking for, you're going to find it. And no matter where you are, you're going to have your antenna up, and somewhere, somehow, the answers to your problems are in the universe, but you just have to be paying attention, and they're constantly whispering at you.
That's awesome. Anne?
Yeah, so I love both of those comments, and I think that for me, it's about from a career perspective, your career is never just going to go up the ladder, right? Like you're going to always you're going to be taking on different opportunities. You're going to move up. You're going to move back. You're going to move sideways, and I think for me, it's about just taking advantage of every opportunity and knowing where you might want to be long term. So, long term, I want to do X. Well, if I really want to do that, what are the experiences that I might need, and who are the people I might need to know and get to know in order to do that? And then the other thing I just keep thinking is to Peter, your comment on perspectives. It's you don't have to be the one that's right or the one that wins, right? So it's a lot, at least, and I know it, I feel like we're seeing it more and more in every organization, in my organization, organizations broadly. It's the role that collaboration plays. If you can help somebody get to a successful point, that's a win for you. How are you questioning? How are you listening? And how are you making somebody else better? That's ultimately going to help you in your career as well. So I think don't go in thinking that it's about you and I have to get this, I have to get to this space. I might want to, I want to get there. This is where I want to be able to get to, but the way I'm going to get there is going to feel a lot different. And I don't even know how I might get there. We're going to take advantage of lots of opportunities and see what kind of skills I learn and what kind of perspectives I might pick up along the way.
That's great. The 3 things I took away from that was, obviously never burning a bridge. Don't let yourself get too rigid, and, take advantage of every opportunity, even if it's in someone else's benefit, because it's going to help us grow in the long run.
Mhm.
Our next question is there a place you found yourself building relationships that you least expected? How about you, Peter?
That wasn't on the list, was it? All right. Oh, geez. I can tell you a story, and maybe out of an example here, it will tell you that it's the universe is really connected. A long time ago, I was involved with a hospital in West Texas, and we were about to embark upon some major changes. And we had engaged a firm that did market research. And for some reason, the market research firm moved ahead of us with their questioning. Well, the week before, I had been in front of a bunch of auxiliary people. And the auxiliaries at the hospitals tend to be the older women whose husbands have died and they want to do something in the community. And in Texas, it's a big deal to be wearing those pink jackets, right? And it's a prestigious job for many of them. So I addressed them and I got to know them, and it was really kind of nice. I was a young man at the time. And one woman who was just so kind wanted me to come over for Thanksgiving because I had just gotten there. She felt sorry for me. And she called me one night. She said, "Peter, I just want you to know, I got a phone call tonight. I found your number. I called over to the directory and they were asking me these questions." And I'm like, oh my God, they're not supposed to be doing this. Right? We're a month away from doing any of this. The public can't know what we're up to, right? And the fact that I had just been in front of them, just trying to let them know how much I appreciate them. And for somebody to catch me, that we averted a complete crisis. We went into special mode that night to make sure that the call stopped and that we didn't let the cat out of the bag, because it would have created a real issue legally for us, because we were doing something with another hospital at the time that was not supposed to be understood by anyone. So you never know when somebody is going to come to your rescue or when you can repay that exact same favor. So that's the best I could come up with on the spot, right?
That's great. Thanks, Peter. Anne, how about you?
Yeah, so I feel like as I guess mostly with the kids events and experiences, right? So I have 3 kids. They're elementary, middle, and high school age, and so as they were growing up, getting to just know people in the neighborhood, because I didn't grow up in Delaware County, didn't know much about Delaware County. I didn't grow up that far. I grew up in Northeast Philadelphia, so it's not like I grew up in like California. But I didn't really know much about Delaware County at all. And so as I'm getting to know the kids and the kids' friends and things like that, just starting to know like, oh well, this person does this, and this is how what this person does for a living, and oh okay. And I think it ties for me it ties a little bit to Andrew's question in the chat as well. So how I came to be on the board is, so I'm the chair of the foundation board for Delaware County Chamber, and then also on the chamber board. And I got there through my kids' relationships with Trish McFarland's kids. Like my kids went to daycare together. That's how we got to know each other. So we were friends, and then all of a sudden, what happened? Like I wanted to focus on how do I do more in the community around Delaware County, around leadership development. Trish is like, oh my gosh, we run this program through the foundation. And that's how I started on the boards probably 6 years ago. And to me, I probably wouldn't have reached out and said, oh, I want to be part of this. I wouldn't have even really known what I could do, but leveraging relationships that I had for years and I met through my kids. And it's like, oh, okay. Now I know that this person does this. If I have a work question, I can go there. So it's like taking advantage of all the opportunities that come to you, not just when I'm in work mode, but when I'm out and about.
That's great. Thanks, Ann. How about you, Mike?
Sure. And this is also going to help answer Andrew's question that was in the chat. I've been playing USA ball hockey for 20-something years now in men's leagues in Springfield, Delaware County here, right across the street from the Springfield Mall, in a place that used to be an indoor tennis. Started years and years ago at Family Fun Spot, moved our way up to there. And I've just played and joined different teams and stayed active and met a few people. And what I found was over time, as we all sort of grew up, being in an over 40 team now and sitting on the bench a half hour before the game and then sometimes a half hour after the game, questions changed. 20 years ago, it was, where are you going this weekend? What's going on? Now it's, how's your kids doing? This, that, and the other. And next thing you know, people would approach me about what I do for a living. Hey, I had a couple of kids. I need some insurance. I want to set a college plan up for my kids. This is what you do, right? And as more did it, I thought, well, we should probably put an ad in the rink. And so we ended up putting taking one of the boards and putting a nice ad on there. And I can't tell you how many clients we've actually gotten. And these are people that I've known for years, including a 7-figure client that would be in my top 15 in my book right now. That came out of walking onto the floor in between games and being grabbed by a guy that I've played against for years. And he said, my dad passed away about 6 months ago. And I said, yeah. He said, listen, mom doesn't know what to do with the life insurance money and stuff. Do you think that we can set up an appointment and you can come by and help her out? And I'm like, that's exactly what I can do. Yes. And turned into a great working relationship in addition to playing hockey with them. So, Andrew, your question is great. All of those places where you are in life, the things that you do, they're all opportunities. And so when you're putting yourself out there, you're really putting yourself out there in front of people.
That's great. There's always an opportunity somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm bringing this kind of right back to you, Mike. Mike, obviously your business thrives on networking and relationships, but Ann and Peter, when you've changed your roles and positions throughout your life, did the relationships you had built have anything to do with getting your foot in the door where you're at today?
Is that for me or for Ann and Peter?
Kind of, let's start with, I guess let's go with Ann and Peter. Sorry. So
that's okay.
When your roles have changed throughout your life, did the relationships you have built have anything to do with getting yourself in the door? And you've talked about this a little bit, but maybe if you want to elaborate a little bit more, Ann and Peter, on that.
I'm happy to take this initially, Ann. Maybe it gives you some time to think a little longer about your response. Looks like she's frozen there, or she's really.
Oh, am I frozen?
Yeah.
A little bit.
Or I'd hate to face you in a staring contest. You don't. Right? So. I think this may even answer Andrew's question earlier. I was reading in the chat, and I think this answer or response will knock down 2 bowling pins for us. Years ago, I was in Southern California running a small hospital, and I was asked to take on a responsibility that was regional in Ohio and Pittsburgh. So we quickly moved to find my replacement. He was new to the company. New to this line of hospitals. So I flew back to spend a few days with him to make sure that he met everybody, that he was he was pushing all the right buttons to make sure that he was successful. So not long ago, when I was looking to make a move, I floated a resume out and I saw his name attached in a response that came back to me. Granted, this is like 12, 13 years later. Right? The fellow's name is Bruce Grimshaw, really nice fellow, still lives in California. He's moved on from that particular hospital. So he said, look, I would be happy to meet with you along with the owner of the company meet me at East Orange General Hospital up in North Jersey. I drove up there one afternoon. The owner was on the phone the entire time we were supposed to be meeting, right? He was in the room, out of the room. I think he asked me one question, right? And I thought I did a pretty good job answering it, but I didn't think I was going to get the job because the owner was just preoccupied. Well, wouldn't you know it, the offer came and I said, Bruce, I never would have guessed. He says, Pete, I've worked with you. I know who you are. I know how you manage things. David trusts me. So I put in a good word. Just don't disappoint me, right? And I just thought that that was really a cool way that the universe pays you back when you do the right thing for another human being.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And if you can still hear
Am
me.
I for?
You're still frozen.
Can you hear
but
me?
Yeah, we can
Oh
hear
God,
you.
I'm scared to see what that frozen look like. Those frozen looks are never, never the most attractive looks. All right, so so as long as you can hear me, I'll go, and then hopefully I'll unfreeze at some point. If not, I'll call in through my iPad. But yeah, I guess for me, it's like, I've been, as I mentioned, I've been at the same organization for 20 years, 24 years, but it is about every move I've made in the organization. It's still about what's the reputation and what's the brand that I've developed throughout my career, and it's like, and how am I working with people? So I would say it has helped me as I move into different roles, because I've proven myself over and over again, and people know they know what they're going to get when they work with me. They know they're going to get someone who collaborates. They know they're going to get someone who is highly responsible and works hard and drives strong outcomes. So they know that because every opportunity I've taken advantage of, I've proven that. So while it's not at a role outside the organization, it still matters, because it's as much as Vanguard can be big, it also is small, right? Like, so, and reputation, will precede you. So how are you making sure that you continue to represent yourself and your work as strongly as possible in all interactions, so that if I, need another opportunity, internal organization or external the organization, people know the work that I've done. And to Mike's point earlier, that I'm not burning any bridges to help me and as I further my career.
That's great. Which kind of leads us into one of our next questions, which we've talked about not burning any bridges and not being too rigid when it comes to networking. But between the three of you, is there any other networking no-nos that maybe you've experienced? Maybe not you personally have learned, but maybe you've experienced while being out there and talking with everyone?
You ready? I got
Again, Mike looks like he has a list. Go ahead, Mike.
So when I first started, I can remember coming to the coffee connections and the business after hours that the chamber would host, and there was usually one of each a month. And I'm a financial advisor, so there's usually a whole room of me hanging out at those networking events. And what I noticed real fast was that almost all of them had their schedule book with them and stacks of business cards. And what they were doing was jamming a business card into everybody's pocket and attempting to make appointments with everybody that was in, anyone that would give them a minute. Like, the conversation always went straight to, you need a financial advisor. I'm a financial advisor. I'm your guy. Let's make an appointment. You've got my card. And I kept thinking, why the sour face on everybody? And I realized quickly, they don't like this. This is not how we do it. And I kind of came up with a different plan where I would always lead the conversation down the path of sports, because I'm a ridiculous 4-for-4 Philadelphia sports nut, and find out something about that person regarding sports. And I would never bring business cards to networking events, but I'd always ask for a business card from the people that I was networking with. And then I would come back to the office, and the next morning I would take out a little stack of notes, and I would write a handwritten note to everybody who I met. And it would say along the lines of, hey, Andrew, it was great meeting with you and chatting at the Coffee Connection today. Too bad the Sixers blew that game last night. Hopefully I'll see you at the next chamber networking event, which is on Tuesday, the 22nd at this spot. I've enclosed my business card if you need to reach out to me for anything. And I would put it in the mail, and I'd forget about it. I would not follow up. I would do nothing. And what happened from doing that over and over and over again is people would approach me at networking events and say, wait, you do financial planning, right? I left Boeing to start my business and I didn't do anything with my 401k. Is that something that you can help me with? And then you're kind of in, right? Like you're not competing against people now. You didn't sell them. They actually came and pulled you in. It's a very different experience trying to get a client that has approached you about something than you approaching them. And it worked really well. So my big takeaway from that is don't be overly aggressive at networking events to try and get the sale. Just meet and make the relationship happen. That's the most important thing. And it goes back to what everybody else was saying about collecting those relationships, because you never know when that person is going to need either what you do or somebody that you know and what they do. And so let it happen naturally, because it's a much better dance if it happens naturally rather than forced.
Well said,
Yeah.
Mike.
Peter, how about you?
All right. So in the type of work that I do, it's really hard to make a sale when you first meet someone. I don't know if I could walk up to someone and say, hey, look like you got a liver problem. Maybe we can take care of it, right? I don't know if I could do that, right? Or 2-for-1 gallbladder removal. So it's pretty easy for me. I try to do the indirect route, just let folks know that I exist. And if there's anything I can do for them, right? But if there is a no-no out there, and I've probably done this early in my career, someone will know that I know someone and they'll say, could you give me that person's phone number? And I did that once, and somebody called me back and said, what are you doing having people call me without my permission? And I think it's really important that if you're going to make a connection, tell someone, look, I'll do what I can. Let me talk to them first. And then if you don't mind, I'll give them your number and have them call you. Might that work? And that way you can be polite and you follow some level of etiquette so that your contacts don't feel like somehow or another you're taking advantage of them.
That's
Sure.
great advice. That's great.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. And
Yeah, I guess the thing that runs through my mind is a no-no is kind of expecting too much. And I guess I think it's to Mike's point a little bit, expecting too much too fast, right? It's like, the things that sometimes will turn me off from networking is sometimes when people are not, they might come and say, oh, can we have coffee? It's like, yeah, cool, we can have coffee. But it's like, tell me everything you know. I'm like, well, I don't even know where to start. Like, do you want to know about the Sixers score last night? Because I know that, or do you want to know about my career? So and this kind of will tie into a little bit of like things to think about. It's like, be really thoughtful, intentional, and planful as you start to network. And especially if it's going to be a one-on-one conversation that you're like, oh, good, I got 15 minutes with Mike. What do I really want to talk about? Instead of saying, Mike, tell me everything you did in order to start your own business 20 years ago. Or Peter, how did you make your decision to go from one place to another? It's like, really think about purposeful questions. So it's not like just, hey, this broad, tell me everything you know, but hey, I know X about you, or I heard this, that's interesting, I'm intrigued by, and just how do you navigate to feel like it can be a more thoughtful conversation rather than putting the person you're trying to network on the spot, to feel like they have to provide some extreme wisdom, when it's like, you just want to have a conversation. So it's more about take more ownership and kind of put the burden on yourself to make this effective, rather than putting the burden on the person that you're trying to network with.
yeah, absolutely. And I like that, what you said about being thoughtful and intentional. And that kind of ties into everyone's response, whether it's, the follow-up note, or thinking about an action before you, pass someone's contact information on, and just making sure that you think through that process and not act too quickly, because it, could burn a bridge in the long run as we grow. That's great. And then our final question today, and if anybody has any questions or anything they'd like to ask too, please feel free. We'll have a couple minutes. You can put them in the chat. But our final question is, what's a networking must do for you? And we kind of touched on that a little bit in our note and our networking no, but if there's anything else that you'd suggest as a must do.
I just keep thinking of kind of give more than you're going to get, especially as you're starting, right? So it's about how do you help someone else, because it'll come back, and maybe it might not come back that they need something from you, but maybe somebody else can do something for you, right? So it's like, if you're giving and giving people, then that's how you're building your brand, your reputation as somebody who can be a strong connection. It'll come back. So like, have some patience, and that can be hard. And especially if you're in a situation where you want to find a new role or a new job, like that can feel like it's so time sensitive, but just really be thinking about, how can I give more, because the universe will bring that back to you.
That's great. Thanks, Ann.
Yeah, that's about what I would have said also. There's an old saying, I think it was Zig Ziglar that said it, something to the effect that if you help enough other people get what they want, you will definitely get all that you want. And I always like to search the room to see if there's anything that I can do to help another person. And it just seems to work out best. And one of the things I did when I got here, and I don't know what sorts of organizations some of you currently manage, but I've got a lot of directors. We have about 150 people between me and the rank and file staff who orchestrate things. And one of the things they're all required to do is to participate in some sort of community benefiting activity, whether it be on a chamber board, whether it be in arts, whether it be in sports, whether it be helping the homeless, but all of them must do something. And we make it our culture that we help first. And by doing so, in the long run, we'll be better off financially, we better be better off spiritually. And I'm not even a religious person, but I think there's something to be said about helping those who are a little less fortunate than you are, and being part of a cause outside of your primary cause.
Those are both great. And putting out that good energy, Peter, that's it. That karma, it definitely works. I think one of the things that I look back on was a coach that I had very early in the business who told me, he's like, Mike, you're really personable. He said, but you don't shut up. He's like, so here's what I want you to do. When you're talking to somebody, I want you to listen as if your main goal is to understand what they're saying, not respond to what they're saying. And at the beginning, I want you to bite your lip when they're talking. And I can remember thinking, I'm going to bleed. Like, I want to talk. I'm ready to go. But that trait over time, where you're listening to understand rather than respond, has paid itself back, because people will tell you exactly what they want if you give them the opportunity. And if you learn what people need and want, and you can help direct them, whether it's through what you do or what someone that you know does, you will build a very long-term relationship. And I think that has paid itself back time and time again.
That's great. All
Yeah,
great.
I love that, Mike. And that made me think about little tips and tricks for you as you're thinking about connecting, because some of you might be really good about remembering people's names, and then some of you might be terrible, or like, oh, I'm so nervous about the situation that I'm like, I can't remember someone's name. So maybe a tip would think about is like, what can you do to make sure you remember someone's name? So if I'm meeting Adam, I'm like, okay, I might have to tell myself Adam, and I use his name maybe twice in a conversation so I remember. And then when I'm leaving the conversation with him, I might say, "Hi, Adam. It was nice chatting with you. Good luck with whatever we might have talked about." So it's like those little things to Mike's point about listening, because you're listening to understand what that person's challenges or what their experience is, and not listening to get something either or to respond. So it's like, how do you make people feel that like the time they just spent with you really mattered to them, because it should, right? This is not about false, just having false relationships. Is you want to deepen connection. So how, when you're doing that, you're actually making people feel like, wow, you are enjoying the time that you're spending as we're chatting, and not just looking for the next person to go talk to.
That's great advice. we're going to wrap things up in just a minute or two, but Andrew put another question in the chat if you'd want to give some insight. What principles do you hold that have been the most valuable to you in business? Why has it been so important to you? Putting everybody on the spot.
This is gonna sound,
Good, Pete.
this is
Go,
gonna
Peter.
sound a little corny, but when I got here, I thought that we had a rather verbose mission statement. I think it was like 4 sentences long, and it barely fit on a plaque. You almost needed 2 plaques to read it. And I said, you know, we need something simple. And what is it that we really should be focused on here? And we came up with the word joy. And, you know, in our business, no matter what you do, the kind of work that the folks do at the bedside will never pay enough given the risks associated with it, the abuse you sometimes have to endure. But if you don't see some sense of joy in what you're doing, then everything else is really meaningless. And I think if all of us could figure out where the joy is in our businesses, you'll find that people will resonate with that concept. You'll make their decisions the right way, and people will gravitate toward your organization because they know that you are doing the right thing for your people. And if you do the right thing for your people, they naturally do the right thing for your customers.
Yeah, that's great. Finding the joy.
Taking what Peter said earlier, I think one of the principles, I think it was a perfect answer to this question. And I think that people that have become successful in networking all do this. And it was plan to give more than you're going to get. And when you plan to give more to an organization than you're going to get, you will find out that you will end up getting more, right? It'll just happen. And it'll happen in such a natural way that it'll be rewarding for both the organization and for you. And so when opportunities come along in the organizations that you're already a part of now, or the ones that you spend time at in the future, when someone comes to you and says, we need people for this, if it is an organization whose mission you care about, jump in. Jump in, because you will give, and the get that'll happen someday, somehow, will be incredible. And that's something, my schedule has been filled with activities associated with organizations since I started. And the get from that has been incredibly rewarding personally and professionally, but looking at the success of those organizations as well has been a source of joy for me to see them move their mission forward and be a part of that.
That's great. Thanks, Mike. And any closing thoughts or?
No, I think that Peter and Mike closed it perfectly. I'm not sure I can add anything more there.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, we want to thank everyone for being with us this morning. Thank you so much, Anne, Peter, and Mike, for sharing your wisdom and your knowledge. There's so many great takeaway messages from today. You know, most importantly, all of us have the opportunity to continue to listen to each person we meet, to understand them, and just to be able to take some of that information that we learned today from all of you. Hopefully we can continue to not only grow our business, but grow personally as we continue to navigate our careers. We thank you so much for reminding us to be thoughtful and intentional in all that we do, and for most of all being with us this morning. We thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. We hope everybody has a great day.
Have a great day.
We look forward to seeing
Have a great day, everyone.
at our next Young Professional event.
Bye-bye.
See you
Have
soon.